Good morning, everyone. This morning I received a letter of resignation from Bill Peters, which I accepted. Effective immediately, Bill Peters is no longer a member of the Calgary Flames organization. What I'd like to do over the next few minutes here is just give you an overview of the timeline of events the last 3 or 4 days. Give you some insight into what's taken place. Please bear with me and please understand that there's information that I can't get into. There may be questions that I cannot answer. But as we've attempted to do throughout this process, we'd like to be as open, honest, and transparent as possible. On November 25th in Pittsburgh, during the game, I was made aware of a tweet on social media from Akim Aliu. Post-game, I immediately met with the media, informed them that we were aware of the allegations, obviously something that we take very, very seriously, and that we would immediately begin a review of the entire incident and issue. Post-game, prior to departing to Buffalo, I made a call and contacted Akim Aliu, which was the first of 2 conversations that I had with Akim throughout this review. On the plane, we were going from, where were we going? We were going from Pittsburgh to Buffalo. I sat with Bill and questioned him about the incident in question, and had a long conversation with Bill traveling to Buffalo. Once we arrived at Buffalo, I met with my staff, communications staff, management staff that was in attendance, and we put together an action plan of how we would move forward. And the 3 critical areas that we felt that we had to have on that plan is, number 1, was to conduct a full review of the situation, of the allegation, of the incident. And it had to be thorough. I've been criticized a lot over the last 3 to 4 days that things have not moved quickly. They've not moved in a timely fashion. If I've not met anyone's time agenda, I apologize, but it was more important to make sure that we get all of the information. This was something that needed to be handled correctly. It needed to be handled in a timely fashion, but I was not going to trade carelessness for thoroughness. Second part of our action plan was dealing with our team. We were in the middle of a road trip dealing with young men that were made aware of this allegation. I met with the team on a number of occasions. Number 1, needed to provide support to our players, needed to provide information and updates. We checked to see if there was any situations in our team where people were put in situations that they were not comfortable with. There were none, but dealing with our team was important. And then third part of this was dealing with the media. We tried to give you as much update as we can, as regularly as we could, with as much information as we could. The media speaks to our fans, speaks to our stakeholders, and we thought it was very, very important that everybody was kept up to speed on this process. It may not have been perfect, but we tried our very, very best. Later that night, too, I communicated with Bill that he would not be part of the team. You know, on the immediate basis, we had a practice the next day, and that he wouldn't be taking care in practice, or be taking part in practice. November 26th really started the review here. Obviously, the allegations took place in Rockford. I contacted and tracked down various members of the organization, 5 players that were part of that team, management of the Chicago Blackhawks, management at that time of the Rockford IceHawks, members of the Rockford IceHawk coaching staff. I again met with our players on the 26th, and we also prepared for the game that was going to take place on the 27th. That was at that time, now on the 26th, informing Geoff that he would be coaching, moving Craig Conroy down onto the bench with Ryan Huska and Marty Jelena, and really the host of issues that take place on an operational standpoint. Later that day and in the early evening, I became aware of allegations that took place in Carolina. On the 27th, now we'll move to, I met with Bill, informed him that he wouldn't be traveling with the team, that we would fly him home to Calgary, which he did on November 27th. And at that time, I made contact with past and current members of the Hurricanes management staff, as well as the player that went public with allegations of contact. And these things take time. Players are all over former players are all over the globe, so we tracked him down and spoke with him. We played that night on the 27th in Buffalo, and during the game I received a letter from Bill, which also went out publicly as a statement that was addressed to me. Yesterday, we arrived early hours on the morning of the 28th. I gathered sort of the information put together the information that we had been gathering, obviously communicating both internally to the people within our organization, senior management, ownership. Throughout this process was involved and communicating regularly with the league, and continued to follow up on calls that I needed to follow up with. That brings us to today and the resignation letter that I received from Bill this morning. I conclude this of saying the subject matter that we've been dealing with over the last 3 days is difficult, it's hard, and it does not in any way reflect the core values of the Calgary Flames. It's been a difficult time, but we are going to move forward. Geoff Ward will be our interim coach. I met with our players this morning, and we're ready to move beyond this and focus on the game on the ice. I'll take a few questions.
Hey guys, so just indicate to me, we'll start with Dave Rowe, we'll go to Eric Francis. Dave, please.
With the announcement, with Bill's decision to resign, what's the status of your investigation? Do you conclude it? Do you continue the investigation, and will you make a public report on what you determined?
Well, our review, for the most part now, I would say, is done. That information will be obviously turned over to the league, but we consider the matter closed.
Eric?
Your conversation when you were hiring Bill, a lot of questions are going to be asked as to whether or not you knew of this abuse. A, had you heard of any of these allegations before when you hired Bill? And B, did you talk to Ron Francis as part of your due diligence to hire him?
Sure. Well, the first question, were we aware of any type of these allegations? Categorically, no. The question's been raised, we know, and what do we know? We knew nothing of any nature that we've been dealing with the last couple of days. In terms of due diligence, you do due diligence. We do a full scrub on any hire. And I did speak to previous employers of Bill.
Chris Zapp, right in the back, please.
Brad, I'm just curious how this is a bit of a follow to Eric's question.
Excuse me, I can't hear.
How does this change vetting of coaches? This is an incident, this goes back 10 years. How does this change this, not just for you, but for any GM in the league as they vet staff? How much deeper do you think you'll need to go in the future to avoid something like this?
No matter how difficult the situation you go through, I think anything you have to learn from it. There's lessons to be learned here, and certainly, I mean, I guess that's what I would say. You know, you always want to find out information. I think in all of us, there's probably things in the past that, you know, people may not be aware of. You try to do as best a job as you possibly can. We'll continue to make sure we dig as hard as we can for anybody else.
If I may just follow that, was there any indication that this is something Bill was hiding, or more that he just didn't imagine it being relevant or popping up 10 years later?
No, no.
Jermaine?
Just one more follow-up on that, Brad. Who were some of the people that you did speak to when vetting Bill? And if you don't even want to reveal that, will the conversation be like moving forward when vetting a coach? and the fact that those incidents never came up.
Well, I don't, I guess it's a lot similar, Jermaine, to the previous question. I don't know if you're gonna find out all the information on, you know, everything of everybody's past, but you have to do the best job you possibly can. Now, is there things that we can change and add? And sure, you look at your policies, you look at your procedures, and you always gotta get better. And so we'll attempt to do that. As far as the first part of the question, I talked to people that Bill had worked for in the past and played for Bill in the past, and, you know, people that he'd been in contact with, not unlike any process that you would go through, a normal process, I would call it.
And did the NHL have, were they involved in this process throughout this week? And
Yeah.
what part did they play?
Yeah, I communicated to the NHL on a very regular basis, so, there was constant communication.
In the back, Chris?
Hey, right over here, Aaron Collins with CBC.
Excuse me?
I'm Aaron Collins with CBC,
Okay.
just so you know who you're talking
Yeah,
to. I'm just wondering, these incidents happened a while ago, they're coming to light now. Does this highlight perhaps a change in the culture inside dressing rooms in the NHL, in hockey in general? Where these things have been viewed as acceptable in the past perhaps, and that's changing? Or how do you see that?
Well, I think in a general sense, Aaron, there's acceptable and non-acceptable behavior. And I think there's, you know, whether it be in dressing rooms or in society, we all evolve. We all, you know, I certainly, from our standpoint, you want people to feel safe, secure in the environment. And, but I think this is, like I said, it's going to be a learning lesson for everyone. And hopefully this is, as difficult as these days have been, hopefully this is something that could be positive moving forward.
Just a quick point of clarification, since the coach resigned, does that mean that the Flames are no longer paying him, so he doesn't have to?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details of that. He's no longer with the organization.
Bill?
I was wondering, did he voluntarily, did he offer to resign? Did you ask him to resign?
He offered and submitted a resignation letter today.
Does that have any impact on, and I couldn't hear the last question, so apologies. Does that have any, what happens with his contract now?
That was very similar to the last question. And I'll give you the similar answer. I'm not going to get into those details.
Brad, it's obviously disturbing that 10 years ago, a person of color, a young black man, felt that coming forward with allegations of racism would derail his career. Do you think that hockey culture, and I mean the NHL and CHL and just all the stakeholders involved in professional hockey something needs to change?
Well, I think from 10 years ago too, I think we have changed. I think there's change. There's you evolve all the time. As I said earlier, I think you have to continue to evolve. You have to continue to look and see if there's issues that need to be addressed and changed. I know how we operate in terms of the culture and the values and things that we hold dear to us. And that type of behavior just has no place. Now, is there more steps that need to be taken? I'm a big believer in accountability and responsibility. So we will be accountable to make sure that we're doing everything we can in our standpoint. But I think lots of steps have been taken throughout, you know, the hockey culture, if you will, to move forward positively. Obviously, we need to continue to do that, as every business and as society does.
Go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
Is it given that there's no playbook for handling something like this, looking back on the last few days at this point, are you satisfied with the way you handled it, the way you did the review, or will you review the review just to see if there's policies and procedures that you need to put in place?
Yeah, I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes. I was flying without a compass here. We tried to do the very best that we could. We tried to get all the information that we could. We tried to not react until we knew all the information. Like I said, I think anything you go through in life, you're going to learn. I pray that nobody in this room or anybody else out there has to go through this. Hopefully that doesn't land at anybody's feet. But you deal with it as best you possibly can.
Go ahead, the back, please.
Hi, I'm Audrey Nebrah. I work for French National Network, French CBC. I would like to know if what do you think would be the steps needed to be taken in the future to ensure something like that doesn't happen, like a formal process? What would that look like to you to help someone in your position?
It's a good question. I don't know right yet. You know, those are probably all things we're gonna look into. I don't know if you can plan for every eventual outcome or every possible scenario. I think as we talk to our people, I think there's always got to be a feeling that people can come forward if you've got an issue, if you've got a situation that you either don't feel comfortable with or you need to talk. We talk to our players about it all the time. We try to give them outlets that they can come and communicate when there's issues that they need to communicate about. I think we always got to continue to have those. Again, I want to reiterate that these incidents didn't take place here, right? So I think the avenues that we've got and some of the mechanisms that we have in place for people to come forward if they need to, bless you, are in place. And but you always have to continue to look at those.
Do you feel like you needed more support from the NHL or any organization to do this type of work?
No, I think the NHL was fantastic in terms of their role in this and the communication that we had.
Kristen, followed by Aaron again.
I'd just like to pivot to Geoff Ward. What makes you think that he's a good fit for this role right now?
Well, Jeff's an experienced guy. He's been around. Part of what we're going through right now is some turbulence. I think stability is important. Quite honestly, Kristen, the go forward right now, I'll have more information for you that in the next coming days. But Geoff is a solid man, solid coach, knows the players, good relationship with the players, but also Ryan Huska, Martin, you know, Ryan plays a big role, Marty plays a big role. I got to sit down with him, with the staff over the course of today and the next couple of days, and we'll put together sort of our plan going forward. But you know, when this thing happened, I felt Geoff was the right man to lead over the course of the last few days, and we'll see where we go forward.
Aaron, you have another question?
Just one last one. Just Bill's resigned. If he hadn't resigned, what was the plan for the Flames?
Well, we had a review that is taking place, and I don't think hypotheticals are things that we should get into right now. He's resigned.
I guess most people are just thinking that if he had resigned, was the plan that he would have to be let go?
Same answer. You know, he's resigned. He's no longer with us.
Jermaine, followed by Chris.
Just to follow up on Ward, so is he the coach for the rest of the season, or does a coaching search start today as well? He's
the interim coach. I haven't gotten to that stage yet, Jermaine. Like I said, I'll probably have more information on that. We're going to sit down and formulate a plan with that, but certainly for the immediate right now, Geoff Ward's going to be guiding the ship.
Brad, I know you took us through a timeline at the start. Just asking if you could take us through a little bit of what you had to deal with and what your thoughts were when you first heard the allegations by Aliu, and then how did it change, if at all, when the allegations of, I guess the word would be abuse behind the bench, occurred, and did you have to navigate through that, or was it the same process going forward?
Well, I mean, I would hope it was like everybody else's when you hear those allegations. I think the word I used at the time was repulsive, but they're allegations. You have to, I believe in people, and you have to be fair to all people. So we wanted to just I believe process is important. And so we had to continue that process, and as far as anything else with Carolina or when that came up, we continued the same process, is to talk, collect information, disseminate the information, and like I said earlier, I know everybody wants a very quick gavel to come into play. We're not in that position. We had to make sure that it was done thoroughly, correctly, and that's what we attempted to do.
I'm going to sneak one more in, sorry Peter, just one more in that sense. Was there any possibility at the beginning of the week of Bill continuing on as the coach with sensitivity training and whatever needs to go through to make him a better person moving forward, and did that change as things continue to mount?
Again, a little bit sort of hypothetical questions. We've gotten today, Bill's resigned. We've got to move forward.
So Chris, followed by Wes and Eric.
Given this situation and what happened, to a lesser extent with Mike Babcock leading up to this, do you anticipate sort of a fundamental shift at your level that could trickle down through minor hockey as well? Everything from how coaches react to players to how empowered players feel to speak out. What do you sort of see the good coming out of all this across the sport, not just the NHL?
Well, I'm not in a position to start talking about other situations. I'm familiar with ours, well, and I think it's a little bit like we talked about earlier. I think you always need avenues to make sure that people have the avenue to talk about issues if they're there. I do think we've evolved. I think how we've coached, how we deal with players, how we deal with people has evolved. I go back to when I played, it's about 100 years ago. And so we continue to evolve, and that's no different than society. But as difficult as you go through in lessons, hopefully you learn from them, and this is no different.
Wes, and then we'll conclude with Eric.
Brad, I know this is kind of difficult to speculate on today, but do you think Bill Peters will work in hockey again in any capacity?
I mean, that's difficult to speculate. Again, I don't want to speculate on that.
Eric?
Brad, how hard was this for you personally? Was this the toughest thing you've ever gone through?
This is the most difficult thing in my career, sure.
Two more, and then we'll conclude. Ryan Pinder and Jermaine is going to conclude. Ryan?
Brad, we haven't heard the word racism at all in this whole process. Is there a reason why, and would you categorize those activities as racist that have been alleged against Bill?
You know what, Ryan? I think I said repulsive at the time. I think I've categorized what we feel of the issue.
Brad, Eric actually asked the question already. I guess the way I would rephrase it is, how tough is it on you knowing that Bill Peters was handpicked and, I'm assuming, a friend of yours, and how do you move forward with that relationship?
Well,
privately, I guess?
yeah. Like I said, there's quote I've used a lot of, sometimes you criticize the performance, not the performer. It's been difficult on everyone. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ouais, la botte.